guys. It's funny how I coughed right when I was about to start the video. Anyway, I'm sick and bored, so I decided to do a story time video. I've been thinking about doing this video for a while, but yeah. I got Alex behind here. It's not actually going to be of Alex. It's actually, I'm going to talk about his mom here in a minute. But yeah, just a warning, I am kind of coming down with a cold. When I get sick, it's not like I get like deathly sick, like nose running, profusely coughing or throwing up. That I rarely get. It's just I get really, really exhausted and I cough a lot. So I'm sorry if that bothers you. That'll just be throughout the rest of the video. And there was something else I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, I'm in my pajamas right now because I don't feel like changing. And my hair's a mess because I haven't taken a shower yet. Because I'm too tired to actually probably here in like an hour or so I'll probably take a shower. But anyway, on to the story. Or on to the next thing I'm going to talk about. Which a lot of people have saw that I got my girl in earlier this week, and were like wanting to know what her story was about and all this other stuff, which is great. I like that people actually want to listen to me talk. But I didn't want to tell her story until I actually had her doll in my hand. So yeah. I don't know what to tell and what not to tell. Basically, if you guys, I guess I can just give you little tidbits of her personality. She's basically, like, very bubbly, well, not bubbly, but, I mean, she's hyper, kind of. She's very optimistic, kind of, and kind of always a little happy. If you can think of Mabel Simmons in Gravity Falls, she's kind of a mix of that personality and then maybe Steven from Steven Universe. So yeah, she's kind of weird. So yeah, there's a little light on her. I probably won't say anything else just because I'm afraid to talk about anything that may pertain to her story and I don't want to ruin it. So yeah, and then I was talking with Amber a little while ago, and she had asked me how old Alix was, which I said in a previous video, but I mean, I never really went in depth on my characters as far as how they age. Alix is 400 years old at the present time. I mean, his story spans 400 years, so I mean, it's a long time. And I think Alix's mother at the present is either dead or like 600 and something. 800. So I had written it down somewhere and I've forgotten by now. So usually if it doesn't pertain to a character that I have like in hand, like Alix, my brain. So yeah, all my characters are fairly old. Like even the little girl I have that I'm gonna tell a story here soon. Probably a couple days after Christmas because that's when I'm opening her. When she gets introduced into Alix's story, she's already 50 years old. So, I mean, magical creatures in my world live a really long time. But then again, it all depends on the type of magical creature, which I'll get here in a minute when I talk about Alix's mother. So, yeah. That kind of gives you a little light on the character situation as far as age-wise, but for the most part, Alix looks like a normal 24-year-old for the most part, and I don't know why I said that twice. And Kira, she just looks like a little girl, just because that's who she is. So yeah, I guess I can start talking about Alix's mom now. So if you've listen to any of my stories, you guys know that Alix's mom was a wolf who raised him because she found him just laying there. Alix's mom had died, You guys can check out the stories at the end on the clicky on the end card So yeah, or probably that way. I always forget which way the video goes. Anyway, so she is not a wolf. She turned herself into a wolf to be with her passed on husband. So we'll bring it at the start. So Alec, Violet, blah, 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 cannot English. Violet was born in a in a tribe just like Alix, except it was back then tribes were a lot bigger, and the wolf packs didn't always see eye to eye as well. So everything between, like, the packs now currently, the packs and the tribes basically are coexistent. They can coexist with each other, but back then that didn't happen just because some mumbo jumbo that happened hundreds of years before that. It was something stupid. Anyway, so she was actually born. Her father was the chief of their tribe. So really, their tribe could be considered almost a kingdom. So he could be considered a king. So yeah, I'm having a hard time gathering my thoughts, as you can tell. So, I mean, she grows up, she's considered royalty by the tribe's standards, but, I mean, she's always been a very open-minded kind of person, and then again, let me also say this about the tribes: magic was technically forbidden. Magic hasn't, like, existed in the tribes probably in 200 years. Or it didn't start happening till like maybe around 200 years later, or 100 years later probably. So anyway, yeah, magic not really happening right now. But anyway, she was fairly educated. She always liked reading and learning different things about the world. So I mean, she kind of convinced her father, hey, let me travel the world, let me learn the things that I need to know. She kind of also spun it off as, if I'm to run this tribe one day, I need to know all the things about the world, so how better to do that than to travel the world and learn things. So her father obviously bought into it, and so she traveled the world for a couple years, and she ran into the pack that is Alix's and her pack now. And really, it was just like, on her travels, she also kind of got into magic. And magic isn't something like you either have it or you don't. Sometimes, well, it is, but if you have it, it kind of slowly, you kind of realize that you have it, strange things happen, stuff like that. So over time, she kind of realizes, hey, I have magic, let me learn this. But she knows that magic isn't okay in their tribe, so she obviously hides it. Little Easter egg, Alix's mom and Fee's mom actually learned together for probably a good chunk of time. So, yeah, their stories kind of commingle together. Just a little cool thing there. And then, yeah, so she's traveling around, she's learning magic and stuff like this, and she gets really into morph magic, which is pretty much her specific core type of magic that she does. She can shapeshift and change into things, and she can change other things into other things. So that's what she mainly practices whenever she's traveling around at this specific time. Well, she runs into this, as a traveler, she's going through the forest, and she runs into this pack, and, it just happened to be, like, I want to say she was probably just playing around with being morphed into a wolf, and she just kind of ran into the pack. And obviously she doesn't want to demorph into the pack, like become human again, because the pack will probably attack her. So she just stays a wolf, and then that kind of backfires, and she ends up falling in love with one of the wolves. So for a very long time, she'll go back, she'll morph into the wolf to be with her lover, and then she'll go back to the kingdom where her father is to do whatever she needs to do there. It's a lot of back and forth. Well, one day she figures out that she can morph things into other things, and her boyfriend basically was like, well, why can't you just turn me human? You can turn yourself into a wolf. You can turn other things into other things. Why can't you turn me into a human? So that's what she did. She basically made him human, and the spell could have basically been permanent, but it wasn't. Because the way it happened, like, he wanted to be with her, which basically the way her life was going, it was like she had to almost be human. She almost didn't have a choice, because there was this whole tribe that was relying on her being the next chief. So a lot of her, she just couldn't feel like, yes, I would love to drop everything, drop everyone to be with the one person I love, but you know, there's things that happen in our lives that we just like, this kind of seems more important than my stupid heart right now. So he kind of came up with this resolve and just was like, hey. So she ends up saying that she fell in love with him on her travels, takes him home, shows it, like, they bond and everything. Well, something happens where she is either knocked out or something happens. I haven't completed her full story yet, so there's a lot of blank spots that I haven't totally cemented yet, I guess is a good way to put it. So something happens, and because she is like either knocked out or isn't paying attention for whatever reason, he basically demorphs back into a wolf, and basically the whole tribe goes crazy. They eventually capture him, tie him down, and they take it as a threat, and she's kind of like, don't do this, I love him, whatever. And then her father is like, how dare you do this to our tribe, bring the wolf into our tribe, that, and you're playing with magic, what is wrong with you? And essentially what he was going to do was kill the wolf in a sense to show her a lesson, like, don't do the things that you do, it only hurts people, which is a wrong thing to do, especially when you don't realize your daughter's been playing with magic for 30 years. So you probably shouldn't threaten a 30-year magic player that doesn't need a wand or something substantial to control their powers. They can control their powers while willy-nilly without anything. So yeah. So basically, you know, she's trying to like block them from killing him, and so they're grabbing onto her and, you know, holding her back. And right when the axe is about to come down on his head, it basically turns to ash. People are thrown all over the place. Chaos ensues. No one knows what's going on. All of a sudden there's this white wolf running around, running a rampage in total anger, because she basically morphs herself into a wolf. She saves her husband, basically, because I'm sure by now they're either married or about to be. So basically she comes to her husband's, I think I wrote his name down. I feel dumb calling him her husband, but she basically is comes to his rescue. She like breaks the ropes. She saves him. And I've said this before, she is actually bigger than a normal wolf just because that's how you morph. Morph magic is kind of weird like that. You don't technically control your morph. Say you want to morph into a polar bear. Well, you could generally look like a polar bear, but you would be like purple and maybe 2 times the size. It's all based on like also personality and like how you are. Say you're like a really tiny person and you morph into a giraffe, you might just turn into a giraffe, but that's really, really small. So morph magic is kind of weird like that. So she ends up being like a fairly large-sized wolf, so that's why a lot of chaos is ensued. So yeah, she basically threatens them and was like, kind of threatens them. She's like, let him go, let us both go, and I won't attack you. 'Cause at this point, she's just, her father has almost like alienated her by now. 1, he's called her out for magic. 2, he was about to kill the only love she's ever had. And 2, probably after this, she would no longer be able to go anywhere, which would probably be one of the number 1 things that was, like, as she got older, that was one of the number 1 things she wanted to do. She wanted to travel, because she's read all about all these places in these books. So he's basically taking everything that she has had in this little world and smashing it. So she, even though there would have been this world that she could have had, I'm not saying this correctly, I'm sure. She basically chose to be with her husband instead of helping the tribe, especially since the tribe just attacked her husband and her. So she was basically exiled from the tribes for hundreds of years. It wasn't until she became friends with one of the tribal members, probably. I really need to grab my book, because that's what I basically have a timeline in my book of things that happen. I was dumb in not grabbing it before I started the camera. But somewhere along the line, she becomes friends with one of the tribe chiefs, and they basically disbanded the not getting along with each other kind of thing, and the whole magic thing, mainly because the tribal chief has magic. So he was like, I'm chief, I say magic is okay, do it. So magic then became an okay thing, so basically anyone with magic was now open with magic. So that was a cool thing. And then basically they went back to their pack. Their pack was good, and this is right after the whole exile of the tribe thing. They're both wolves now, and the whole thing with morph magic is sometimes it can become permanent. Your morphs can become permanent based on personality. She kind of controlled it for a while, and then she just didn't change back. So, because there'll be times where, like, she falls asleep and she'll wake up, she'll be human. But for this, she just never changed back to human. So she's been wolf for a very long time. And, her husband obviously became alpha when his father died, and now they're almost at present, basically. Some of the things that have happened, obviously, was some of the wars that I have talked about, and some of the raids, and some of the ongoings between humans and the pack, and stuff like that. One thing specific to Violet is, I talked about kids and why she felt that she needed to have Alix so bad, is, she tried to have, like, that was another one of her things. She wanted to have a family as well as do the things that she wanted to do for the world. So I hate being sick. Okay, so when she married him, shortly after they tried having a kid, she ended up miscarriaging, and then, I mean, that obviously had a really bad effect on her. She became very depressed, you know. She kind of was like, I'm just the pack's whatever's right below the alpha, and she, you know, she did her job. She did what she needed for the pack. She protected who she needed to protect. After a while, she kind of went through it, and she was like, hey, let me try and have another kid. So she got pregnant again. Unfortunately, that led to another miscarriage, and that was pretty much fairly close to where I would say maybe 20 years before she found Alix. So she pretty much goes through the same thing. Depression, the whole deal that happens when women have miscarriages, and that's a very serious thing. I'm not trying to make light of it, just so you guys know. So when she finds Alix and, you know, she sees that the mother is dead and can't take care of her child, she immediately kind of was like, she attached herself to Alix as a way of dealing probably with her own stuff, which it helped Alix and it helped her, and I think that's a lot of the reason why her husband was perfectly okay with having Alix in the tribe or in the pack, because not only did it help Alix, you know, it saved him, because by now, but by Alix's time, they're pretty much considered sisters, brother sisters, you know, the tribes and the packs. They're all considered like family, so in a sense, even though some pack members are ridiculous, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it really helped Violet very much in dealing with, like, depression and having someone to, I guess, dote on, like, with a kid and stuff like that. Yeah, really helped her. And then that kind of just, she, you know, taught him all about magic and taught him everything he knows. Mostly, until that is until he starts traveling, because that's when she's like, okay, I taught you all I know. I mean, if you want to start traveling the world, that's up to you. There's one thing I want to say. When Alix goes dark, you know, I'd say that he ends up going black. You know, he doesn't remember anything that has happened. Well, that was because right before he was about to go to the pack to, I don't know, go crazy, she kind of realized what was going on and basically demorphed back into a human, because I guess that was the only way she felt like that was the quickest way to resolve this. Because it's kind of hard when you're a giant wolf to stop a little boy without killing him, I guess. So she grabs closest thing she can, basically a big stick, and whacks him over the head, which knocks him out, because, I mean, at this point, Alix kind of has killed a few people, and she only saw this as a way that Alix will either end up dead at the end, or everyone will end up dead at the end. So there was those two options, and then she was like, well, I could try and knock him out. That is probably my only option before this, you know. So she knocks him out. He ended up being perfectly fine. He lost his magic for a good chunk of time, which it wasn't till, like I said, 100 years later, is when Alix pretty much starts to decide that he is going to go and travel with magic, travel and learn about magic more. And he doesn't just learn about magic, he also learns pretty much anything, like geography, math, you know, all the things you need to learn about the world. And I was about to say something else, and I can't remember what it was. Yeah. Although, the thing about when I said that she morphed into a human and then hit him over the head and he became fine, she morphed back into a wolf. The wolf technically is now her permanent state of being. She just turned into a human, so that way it was easier for her to knock him out. So he doesn't even know she can morph and stuff like that. A lot of the pack members don't really. Like I said, by this time I think she was probably near 400 or 300. Like I said, I got a timeline and I'm getting confused now. And it's not helping that I'm sick and my brain's jumbled. So yeah, now we're kind of at the point of the story where everything's colliding. So yeah, we're at where basically Alix's story had ended last time. So she basically is taking care of the pack. Anytime he needs to go somewhere, she'll basically escort him. Because pretty much she knows a lot about the world. So she knows if he just sets out on his own, he's most likely going to be attacked. And no one's going to attack you if you got a giant, like, 10-foot wolf beside you. So there's that. I'd say she became alpha after her husband died. Which a lot of people were against because it was like, oh no, a woman can't be alpha, what are you doing? But because she was bigger and because she does exude a lot of the alpha qualities, that's why she became alpha. And she became like controlling person of the pack now, while Alix travels, and there is something that happens that eventually causes her to stop being part of the pack, and she ends up traveling with Alix, and they're a merry band of misfits, I guess is what you can call. But yeah, she eventually travels with them all over the place, which is why I want to get a doll of her. The reason I'm doing her story right now is because I don't think I will be getting her doll until probably next December. Just because I want to get her in an SD size, because like I've already emphasized how big she is compared to the wolves. So I feel like to exude that in a doll way, she needs to be an SD size doll. So it'll be a while. Plus I have no clue what kind of sculpt I want. I'm already having a hard time getting his best friend sculpt down. So, dolly problems. So yeah, I hoped this story wasn't too rambly. I hope this story wasn't too confusing, because I can't tell stories very well. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you guys have any other questions about my stories or what you can't understand, just leave them down below, and I will answer them either in your comment or in another video. I think that's it. I'll see you guys later. Bye!